Hello, everyone. My name is Yamara, and today we'll be talking about the penalty debate. The name of my project is Life for Justice, a breakdown of the death penalty debate. So, what is the death penalty? The death penalty, also known as capital punishment, is a process of placing convicted offenders to execution for more serious crimes like murder. And what is death row? So you'll hear me talking about death row later in the slides. Death row is a term to define when a convicted offender is in line or waiting process for execution based on the crime they committed. What is the issue? The issue is that the death penalty creates debates regarding moral justification of the death penalty approaches from either side. Although many claim the death penalty is a justified form of punishment. There are many ways we can support either side. There's arguments from both sides, but it is important that we understand both sides of the argument to find one common ground, a logical solution. Why is it important or relevant? We must advocate for those that cannot for themselves. And by doing that, we should inform ourselves about the situation. And the United States actually still implements the death penalty in 27 states. So if you take a look at the picture on the right side, the 27 gold states that are solid gold, they all have the death penalty in place at this moment. All the striped gold states, they also have the death penalty, but it is currently not being implemented based on executive orders like their governors. And then the teal states do not have the death penalty at all. And another reason why this is important is because there are innocent lives at risk with the death penalty, and we'll talk about that more later in the slides. My position versus the opposing position. So my position is the anti-death penalty position. And my reasons are there's fatal error or wrongful conviction involved in these cases. It is not proven to be a deterrent for crime, and it is morally and ethically wrong and creates low social morale. On the opposing side, pro death penalty, they claim that it does work as a deterrent in the sense that it is certain that the individual will not reoffend because the person is executed, so they will not reoffend. Offenders will commit crime in non-death penalty states, therefore it should be applied nationwide. So adding to that position, or to that claim, they say that, there's offenders that will pick certain states to commit a crime in order to not, in order to avoid the death penalty. So their stance is that it should be applied nationwide everywhere. That way, that is not an issue. So my position, with the death penalty, individuals run the risk to be wrongfully executed on reasons of insufficient or late evidence presented at the time of conviction. In one instance, 118 prisoners were exonerated from death row later on after proven innocent. And later on, 139 innocent prisoners were sentenced to death. 23 were actually eventually executed, and 22 were close. The death penalty. So another claim of my position is the death penalty does not deter crime. There's actually little to no evidence in proving this. Criminals are not necessarily thinking about the consequences, nor are they mentally or emotionally stable enough to think rationally. So adding to that is that although some criminals have actually committed crimes in death penalty states in hopes that they will be caught and executed. So there's actually people that, instead of the death penalty being a deterrent in those death penalty states, there has been people that have admitted to going to the death penalty states that implement the death penalty in order to be executed. My other claim for my position is that two wrongs do not make a right. Killing someone for killing another person does not make it morally correct and should not be something that we are teaching to others. This is something that not only younger people will learn about and see, you know, it's also something that we are showing to the rest of the world that it's okay to do it if they did it to us. This retribution would only cause more grief to not only the victims' families, but to the families of the offenders. So in a sense, you're hurting more people rather than addressing the situation the least minimal invasive way. So one claim from the opposing side is that criminals cannot recommit a crime cannot recommit a crime if they are sentenced to death. This is a form of deterrence, contrary to what death penalty abolitionists claimed prior. This would get rid of the possibility of parole and become a threat for future offenses. Another claim for the opposing side is, and contrary to the claim that individuals have potentially leaned or not leaned towards states that have the death penalty implemented, if the death penalty was implemented nationwide, this would not be an issue and the punishment would be the same anywhere. So the middle ground for this, for both these claims or both these sides, is that a middle ground to this debate would be to implement life in prison without the possibility of parole. This would eliminate the risk of executing an innocent life, and if later evidence is presented making them innocent, they could be released. Instead of, accidentally, accidentally executing someone that was innocent. You can't take that back. And with this middle ground solution, you would not have that. You would be able to exonerate the offender or the innocent prisoner. If the person is guilty, they would stay in prison forever and would not be able to reoffend as pro-death penalty individuals had claimed previously. So, by continuing a retribution system for individuals committing these crimes, we are to explore options rather than going straight for execution methods. The moral and safest way to do would be to create a new law that automatically puts them into prison for life without possibility of parole. And this would prevent from hurting others involved as well. Like the family members of the offender and the victims, family having to relieve the grief of their loved ones. Life in prison gives us a solution to be able to retract any mistakes in the process of retribution. And these are my references. Thank you for listening.